The evening rain fell softly outside the large family mansion, while silence filled the dining room. Nobody touched their food. The tension around the table felt heavier than the storm outside. Yu Long sat quietly beside Mei while his father stared at both of them with cold disappointment in his eyes. Several relatives exchanged nervous glances, afraid of what might happen next. Finally, the older man placed his chopsticks down slowly. "I'll ask one final time." The room became completely silent. Yu Long already knew the question before it came. Divorce her. Mei's fingers tightened immediately beneath the table. Yu Long looked calm, but his jaw slowly tightened. His father continued, "This marriage has embarrassed our family enough already." Mei lowered her eyes quietly. The older man noticed immediately. "You brought nothing but trouble into this house since the day you entered it." Yu Long's expression changed instantly. "Father." But the older man raised his voice. "I am speaking the truth." Mei remained silent even though her eyes had already become red. Yu Long slowly reached for her hand under the table. That small movement only made his father angrier. "You still choose her over your own family?" Yu Long answered softly, "I'm choosing my wife." The room froze. His father stood up immediately. "Do you even hear yourself?" Yu Long finally looked directly at him. "I hear myself clearly." His father laughed bitterly. "She ruined your future." Yu Long shook his head quietly. "No, she gave my life peace." Mei looked at him in shock. The older man slammed his hand against the table. "Peace? Ever since meeting her, you've abandoned family meetings, ignored responsibilities, and turned against your own father." Yu Long's voice remained calm. "Loving someone is not betrayal." His father's eyes filled with anger. "Then prove your loyalty to this family and end this marriage tonight." The silence afterward felt painful. Mei slowly pulled her hand away from Yu Long's. Yu Long noticed immediately. Mei forced herself to speak softly. Maybe he's right." Yu Long turned toward her instantly. "Don't say that." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I never wanted your family to hate you because of me." Yu Long's expression softened immediately. Mei. She shook her head weakly. "You've already sacrificed too much for me." Yu Long gently held her hand again. "Look at me." Slowly, she did. "I married you because I love you." Her tears finally rolled down. Not because life would become easy. The room became quiet again. Yu Long looked back at his father. "I will not divorce Mei. The older man's face hardened immediately. Then from today onward, his voice trembled slightly with anger. "You are no longer my son." Mei's breathing stopped for a moment. Several relatives immediately stood up nervously. "Please calm down." But his father ignored them completely. "If you walk out of this house with her tonight, do not ever return." Yu Long stared at his father quietly. The pain in his eyes was impossible to hide now, because despite everything, he still loved his family deeply. But then he looked at Mei beside him, crying silently, trying to make herself smaller so she would not create more conflict. And suddenly his decision became easy. Yu Long stood slowly. Mei looked up immediately. "Yu Long." He gently wiped the tears from her face. "You don't have to cry alone anymore." His father watched in disbelief. "You would truly throw everything away for her." Yu Long answered softly, "No, I'm protecting the person I promised to spend my life with." The older man turned away angrily. "Then leave." The single word shattered the room. Mei's tears became heavier instantly. Yu Long slowly picked up Mei's coat and carefully placed it over her shoulders. Then he held her hand gently. "Let's go home." Mei looked at him emotionally. But before they reached the door, his father spoke one final time. "When life becomes difficult because of this decision, do not come back here asking for help." Yu Long paused briefly. Without turning around, he answered quietly, I never needed wealth to stay beside Mei. Then he walked out with her into the rain. Outside, the cold wind wrapped around them immediately. Mei finally stopped walking. Yulong turned toward her. What's wrong? Her voice trembled. You lost your family because of me. Yulong stepped closer slowly. No, he gently held her face. I made my own choice. Mei cried harder. But it still hurts. Yulong smiled sadly. Of course it hurts. His eyes slowly became emotional too. He looked back once at the bright mansion behind them, the home where he spent his entire childhood, the place he might never enter again. Then he looked at Mei, and suddenly, the pain became easier to carry. Yulong softly rested his forehead against hers. As long as we're together, we'll survive this. Mei closed her eyes while tears continued falling quietly. Yulong wrapped his arms around her gently while rain poured around them. And for the first time that night, neither of them felt completely alone anymore.